you just saw and you observed the talks in Islamabad. I just want to know what is your expression. Do you think the process is completely failed, or there is some opportunity or window of opportunity for the peace?
No, I don't. I don't think the process has completely failed. Given how complex this issue is, it would have been very difficult for the two sides to reach a deal after just one day in Islamabad. So yes, I mean, the U.S. negotiating team has left, the Iranian team has left as well. But I suspect, given how much the U.S. side wants a deal for political reasons, because this war is very unpopular in the U.S., I suspect that the Trump administration, despite its tough talk and bluster and threats, will want to continue looking for ways to engage and have a dialogue with the Iranian side. Now, they're still very far apart on many issues, which is going to make it challenging. But I do think that both sides are committed to at least keeping the door open for talks.
As you were telling that the talk process is still going on and it's not completely failed. But do you think there is, some consensus point also? Because as we know that JD Vance, the Vice President of US, he was there in Islamabad and he said that we handed over a few points to Iranians and now it's their turn to come back.
Right.
So what kind of consensus could be there? What are the points which can be considered mutual points and finally they can agree to some disagreement?
Right. I mean, this is a critical question. I think one of the reasons why the talks weren't successful in Islamabad is that the U.S. side insisted on the very issue that the Iranians are least likely to make concessions on, that being the issue of Iran's nuclear weapons program. And the U.S. side has said that it does not want Iran to continue building that, whereas Iran has said, no, that's off the table. So I think in terms of consensus points to look for, certainly one of them would be the truce. The truce is going to be expiring in a few days, but I suspect that both sides would be inclined to keep the truce going, which would mean agreeing to extend it. So I think that's something they might look at. I also think the Strait of Hormuz is an issue where they could agree. The U.S. clearly wants access to be restored, and I suspect that Iran would be willing to agree to that so long as it gets assurances, economic security assurances from the U.S. and others. So I think those two issues, the truce and the Strait, and of course none of this is easy to negotiate, but I think the Strait issue and the truce are perhaps issues that could be focus areas for the next set of talks, if those will be picking up anytime soon.
And how do you see the role of JD Vance? Because he's getting popular in US and he's becoming a challenge also. And
Right.
This is another challenge for him also. And it's a test case for him.
Right.
So how do you see his role in coming days? And the other two partners like Kushner and Witkoff, their presence in Islamabad,
Right.
What does it mean?
Well, I mean, this was a very senior delegation that came from the U.S. I don't only mean senior in terms of hierarchy, but I mean senior in terms of level of influence in the White House. Vance, Kushner, and Witkoff, these are very close aides to Trump. He trusts them. So the fact that he had the three of them fly all the way to Pakistan for talks, the fact that President Trump wanted these three men to fly all the way to Pakistan suggests just how much the Trump administration wanted to get a deal. They didn't get one, but I think it shows a level of commitment. Kushner and Witkoff, they've been in the middle of all the most difficult negotiations that the U.S. has undertaken. So clearly there's a realization that these were important talks, but also difficult ones. Now, in terms of Vance himself, he is someone who has, I think, taken on the role of a key foreign policy voice in the Trump administration. So that's significant. Another thing about Vance is that he has been very vocal about his opposition to this war. Of all of those in the inner circle of Trump, he's been the one that's been most opposed to the idea of a war, which I think is something that the Iranians would have responded well to. Vance also could be the top presidential candidate from the Republican side in the next U.S. election. So that means he has a lot at stake politically, right? He has to be careful in his own messaging. He doesn't want to seem like he's surrendering, but he also needs to make sure it doesn't seem like he's trying to support an ongoing war that's very unpopular at home. So I think moving forward, Vance will definitely be a key player to watch. How does he continue to position himself, and will he continue to play a leadership role on the U.S. side in talks if there are more of them? I suspect that he will.
And lastly, how do you see Pakistan's role? I saw your tweet, you mentioned that Pakistan has emerged at a different level right now in South Asia and in the region also. How do you see Pakistan's role in future and the role of Field Marshal and the role of Prime Minister Shehbaz? Do you see they have emerged as world leaders as long as far as this peace process is concerned?
Well, I mean, I think that Pakistan and the Prime Minister and the Field Marshal, Pakistan's government on the whole, have really benefited from this surprising resurgence in ties with the U.S. That was not expected, quite frankly. Definitely not in Washington, and probably not in Islamabad either. The fact that President Trump, who may be the most powerful figure in the world at the end of the day, in the policy space, that he has praised Pakistani leaders repeatedly, including the Field Marshal. And we could talk about why he does that, but that's the fact, that's the reality. That, I think, was one of the reasons why Pakistan was able to emerge as the key broker, the key facilitator and mediator in this process. It's not the only reason, but it's one key reason. Pakistan, it's a rare country that has good ties with both the US and Iran, as well as all of the others involved in the facilitation efforts, Turkey, Egypt, the GCC states, China. This has helped Pakistan in a big way. Now, I think that even though there wasn't an agreement in Islamabad, I think Pakistan has still already won. In many cases, won in terms of achievements for its interests. For Pakistan, it's important to show its region and the broader world that it is a serious country that has the capacity to exert influence, including in regions that are important for Pakistan's strategic interests, like the Middle East. So, maybe a bit of a setback, but Pakistan would have wanted to get that deal, especially because Pakistan, like so many other countries, wants the war to end very badly. But I think that reputationally, it's a big boost. And, I'm sure, as you know, Pakistan has had image problems in terms of global perceptions going back a number of years. But I think that its image has really softened as perceived by the international community. And the fact that now it's the country that brought the Iranians and the Americans to Pakistan. It was at the table with them in three-way talks, trying to do whatever it could to broker an end to, what threatens to be one of the most serious destructive wars the world has faced in a number of years. So I think that's a victory for Pakistan right there, even though it didn't get the deal that it wanted to get.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much for your time. साथ इस वक्त मौजूद हैं मोहम्मद हादी, जो कि पाकिस्तान कॉन्फ्रेंस जो कि ये हो रही है हार्वर्ड में, एक बड़ी कॉन्फ्रेंस, एक ऐसे वक्त में जब इस्लामाबाद टॉक्स हो रही थी। ये तमाम इंटेलिजेंशिया को यहाँ पे जमा किया गया, जिसमें अमेरिकी सेनेटर्स भी थे और इसमें मुख्तलिफ लोग थे। तो ये पाकिस्तान के बारे में बात कर रहे थे, पाकिस्तान के रोल के बारे में बात कर रहे थे, जो इस्लामाबाद में अचीव हुआ है, जो पाकिस्तान का किरदार है, उसके बारे में बात कर रहे थे। तो ये बड़ी ज़बरदस्त कॉन्फ्रेंस इसके ऊपर, जिसके ऑर्गेनाइज़र हमारे साथ इस वक्त मौजूद हैं, मोहम्मद हादी, उनसे हम बात करेंगे। हादी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
बहुत शुक्रिया आसमा आपका। यू हैव ट्रैवल्ड ऑल द वे फ्रॉम पाकिस्तान फॉर दिस, एंड आई थिंक वी नीड पीपल लाइक यू। एंड ये जो एक स्पेस हमने क्रिएट की है, द पर्पस ऑफ दिस इज़ कि हम पाकिस्तान को एक सेंटर स्टेज पे लाके दुनिया को दिखाएं। पाकिस्तान की जो स्ट्रेटेजिक लोकेशन है और जो इम्पोर्टेंस है, आई थिंक दैट हैज़ बीन नेग्लेक्टेड फॉर क्वाइट अ व्हाइल।
कोइंसिडेंस हो गया कि इतनी बड़ी टॉक्स हो रही थी वहाँ पे, और यहाँ पे ये कॉन्फ्रेंस थी, या
एक्चुअली हमें लोग पूछ रहे हैं कि ये कोई प्री प्लान तो नहीं था। हमने कहा टॉक्स तो प्री प्लान ऑब्वियसली नहीं हो सकती,
प्री प्लान
एग्जैक्टली। या सो आई थिंक यही मोमेंट, जो एक तरफ इस्लामाबाद टॉक्स हो रही हैं और पीस की बात हो रही है, और इधर भी हमने हमारे पॉलिटिक्स पे पैनल है, पॉलिसीज़ पे है, डेमोक्रेसी पे है, आपका गवर्नेंस पे है। तो आई थिंक ये जो सारी कन्वर्सेशन हो रही है, अगर आप इसको ओवरऑल अगर मैं सम अप करूँ, तो इट्स ऑल अबाउट हाउ वी कैन क्रिएट अ मोर पीसफुल वर्ल्ड। एंड आई थिंक दैट्स वेयर देयर इज़ अ स्ट्रॉन्ग सिनर्जी एंड स्ट्रॉन्ग नेक्सस बिटवीन this conference at Harvard and what is happening within Pakistan. So I think kudos to every one of us who have contributed their part to अचीव दिस आउटकम।
ने और अभी मैं देख रही थी कि हमारे फॉरेन मिनिस्टर, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर यहाँ पे आए हुए हैं, हिना रब्बानी खर साहब आई हुई हैं, आतिफ मियाँ साहब आए हुए हैं,
हिना रब्बानी खर इज देयर, मोहित यूसुफ इज देयर,
रज़ा बाकर साहब हैं, और फिर अमेरिकन सेनेटर्स हैं यहाँ पे, हसन अब्बास साहब जैसे लोग
हैं, एंड देन वी हैव सेनेटर वैन हॉलन हु इज अ सेनेटर इन
मैरीलैंड के। तो ये एक बड़ा एक बुके सा था जो कि पाकिस्तान के बारे में बात कर रहे थे, एंड दे आर वेरी होपफुल। किसी एक ने भी पाकिस्तान के किरदार के ऊपर जो है, ख़ास करके जो अमेरिकन्स हैं, वो बहुत ऑप्टिमिस्ट हैं पाकिस्तान के रोल के बारे में। जो निगोसिएशंस हुई हैं, बज़ाहिर ये बेनतीजा हुई हैं, लेकिन लग ऐसे रहा है कि एक वे फॉरवर्ड पाकिस्तान ने दे दिया है। तो आपको क्या लगता है कि इस तरह की कॉन्फ्रेंसेस अभी और भी आप प्लान कर रहे हैं? पिछले बरस तो आपने की थी, उस वक्त भी पहलगाम हो गया था और उसके बाद उसकी इम्पोर्टेंस हो गई थी, और कितना ज़रूरत है यहाँ पे पॉलिसी लेवल के ऊपर
आई
बात
थिंक
करने
आपने बिल्कुल सही बात की है कि जो इधर की ऑडियंस है, सेनेटर साहब ने जो भी बात की है, जो मैरीलैंड के आए हुए थे, एवरीवन यू नो द वंस हु लिव हियर, उनका बहुत एक पॉजिटिव परसेप्शन है पाकिस्तान के बारे में। आई थिंक जो हमें मीडिया एक चीज़ दिखाता है और जो एक्चुअली यहाँ के लोग बात करते हैं, दैट इज़ वेरी डिफरेंट। आई थिंक कॉन्फ्रेंसेज लाइक दिस, conversations like these are very important for the fact that you know अगर हम ये conversations करेंगे तभी हम एक soft side भी दिखा सकेंगे पाकिस्तान की। एंड जहाँ तक आपने उसकी पीस टॉक्स की बात की, वो तो अभी देखें सिर्फ 21 घंटे हुए हैं और वो एक राउंड ऑफ टॉक हुई है। अभी भी जो उनके दो लाइक अदर दैन JD Vance जो बाकी दो लोग हैं अमेरिकन रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स हैं, दे आर स्टिल इन पाकिस्तान एंड दे प्लान टू स्टे फॉर द नेक्स्ट 2-3 डेज। तो आई एम वेरी होपफुल दैट वी नीड अ पीसफुल वर्ल्ड, और अगर हम कन्वर्सेशंस करेंगे, डायलॉग करेंगे, निगोसिएशंस करेंगे, आई थिंक दैट इज़ द वे फॉरवर्ड।
और इस फोरम को आपको कितना एक्सपेंड करना चाहिए, क्योंकि इंडिया मैंने देखा है कि इसी हार्वर्ड में उनका अपना एक बड़ा इन्फ्लुएंस रहा
होता
है। वो
अरब कॉन्फ्रेंस का होता है, इंडिया का होता है, हर कंट्री के इधर होती हैं। तो आई थिंक हमारा पर्पज़ ये है कि ये एक फ्लैगशिप इवेंट हर साल होगा और इसके इर्द गिर्द हम अपना जो हमारा पाकिस्तान इनिशिएटिव है, विच इज़ वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट नॉट फॉर प्रॉफिट पॉलिसी थिंक टैंक रजिस्टर्ड इन US, वो क्या कर रहा है, वो बेसिकली इन कन्वर्सेशंस को सपोर्ट कर रहा है, वो इनको होस्ट कर रहा है, स्पॉन्सर कर रहा है, सो दैट यू नो वी कैन प्रोजेक्ट पाकिस्तान द वे इट शुड बी प्रोजेक्टेड वे बैक।
और ये विदाउट द हेल्प ऑफ गवर्नमेंट है, ये मतलब आप लोग खुद
डेफिनेटली,
इसको
मतलब कि देखें गवर्नमेंट की हेल्प की हमें इसलिए ज़रूरत नहीं है बिकॉज ऑफ द फैक्ट कि हम यंग ब्लड हैं, स्टूडेंट्स हैं, एंड स्टूडेंट्स इज़ द गवर्नमेंट, स्टूडेंट्स ही गवर्नमेंट है।
सही बात है। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।